10-Minute Jazz Lesson Podcast, episode 200. Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of the 10-Minute Jazz Lesson Podcast. This is episode number 200. We made it. We made it through 200 episodes. Pretty unbelievable. When I first started this show, I never thought that I would make it this far. And just want to thank all of you for sticking with me throughout 200 entire episodes. We started this podcast back in 2016, if you can believe that. So we've been going 4 years strong on this thing, and just really happy to be back here with you for another episode. So instead of making a huge deal out of it, we're just going to plug away. We're just going to keep trying to get better at jazz. So this is not going to be any kind of special episode. We're just going to dive into a new topic for the month of March and keep trying to get our skills up to par, which is what we've been doing for the last 199 episodes. So before we jump in, as you guys know, you can get all the PDFs to every single episode that we've ever done, which adds up to 200 right now currently. And you can get those over at our Patreon site where you can support us directly, get fantastic returns for that investment, and continue to get better at jazz each and every week with the help of those useful PDFs. Remember, we've also got an ear training podcast over there, which I've been getting rave reviews on from a bunch of you out there that are already Patreon members. So the benefits just keep adding up. And if you'd like to get in on that, it's only $3 a month to support the show, get all the benefits. You could do that by going to 10minutejazzlesson.com, clicking on one of the Patreon banners, and signing yourself up for instant access to all the materials that we've put out over the past 4 years. Wanted to give a quick shout out to some brand new people that have signed up this month. Thank you to Martin, Yoav, David, Stephen, and Gavin. Thank you guys so much for becoming part of the 10-Minute Jazz Lesson family. We really appreciate that. Again, 10minutejazzlesson.com. Click on one of the Patreon banners. We really appreciate any support that you can show. So this week we're going to dive into a really close look at the bridge of rhythm changes. Now, all the way back when we first started this podcast, all the way back in 2016, we did a series on rhythm changes, but that was basically looking at it as a whole and kind of looking at it from 10,000 feet, as they say. Now we're going to dive in. We're going to get a little bit more specific. I think that the bridge of rhythm changes is the coolest part. It really contrasts well with the A sections where the chords are really shoved in there together. In the bridge, we have a chance to really stretch out on the harmony, and that provides for some really different ways of thinking. And I think that's part of what makes rhythm changes still such an integral part of the jazz language and keeps this form living on throughout the years here. So in this episode, we are going to talk about the structure of the bridge. We are also going to give the simplest form of how to handle this bridge, because what we're going to be talking about is the myriad of different ways that you can play over this bridge, all very successfully. But we have to kind of start from a baseline, right? So I'm going to talk about the sort of the bare bones bridge of rhythm changes, what it's really based on, and why these chords are the way that they are. What is the structure of these chords that make it so successful? And we'll also talk about 2 exercises you can do to really get the bridge in your ears before the next 3 episodes where we really dive into it a little bit further and get more complicated as we go through. Okay, so the first thing we need to talk about is what really is the most basic way of playing the bridge over the rhythm changes. So it's an 8-bar section, right? The B section of a 32-bar tune equals a quarter of that tune, which equals 8 measures. So here's the basics. Whatever key you're playing rhythm changes in, you jump up to the third, and you play a dominant chord on that third, right? And then you move around the circle of fourths. And what that will do is it will bring you around back to the one chord of whatever key you're in by the time you get to the end of that 8 bars. So let's say we're playing rhythm changes in the key of B flat, the most common key to play rhythm changes in. You're going to start with a D7 chord. That's going to last for 2 measures. Then you're going to jump to a G7 chord, 2 measures on that. Then you're going to jump to a C7 chord, 2 measures on that. And then you're going to jump to an F7 chord, 2 measures on that. And then you're back to a B flat chord when you start that last A section. So let's back up from that B flat chord and go to F7. That's the 5 chord. So it leads us perfectly with really functional harmony back into the last A section. So let's talk about why we jump up to the 3rd. Why is that the beginning of this cycle of chords? Well, if you think about it, let's think about one of the most common chord progressions in jazz, the 3-6-2-5, right? That's an extended cadence that gives us a bunch of root movement that ultimately leads us back to 1. So that's how I want you to think about this progression. It's like a big 3-6-2-5-1. Now, usually when we do a 3-6-2-5, we get a minor chord on the 3, a dominant chord on the 6, then a minor chord on the 2, and then a dominant chord on the 5, right? These happen to all be dominant chords. So the way to think about this is that it's a continuous 5-1, and then the 1 instantly becomes the 5 of the next key that we're moving towards. So you can think about the 3 chord as the 5 of 6. You could think about the 6 chord as the 5 of 2. And you could think about the 2 chord as the 5 of 5. We did an episode on secondary dominance. So if you want to go and check that out, if you don't understand what I'm talking about when I list these 2 Roman numerals, go and check out that series on secondary dominance. But I'm guessing that most of you at this point know what all of that means. That 5 of 6, 5 of 2, 5 of 5, and that's going to lead us right back to 1. So this is going to be the basis, the base of operations for the bridge. It's the simplest way to play the bridge. It's a very easy way to think about it. You just jump up to that 3rd, move around the circle of fourths, and then you're going to end up back on the 1 chord with that big 3-6-2-5. What I wanted to do was present you with a couple of really simple exercises to get you hearing the bridge and start us down this path. We need to hear this basic form of the bridge before we can do any kind of substitutions or anything that's really complicated that we're going to move into over the next couple of weeks here. So the first exercise on your PDF this week is very, very easy. This is a great exercise that I had a teacher show me in the past. And you can do this with any chord, not just dominant chords, but it's kind of an all-encompassing exercise that I really, really love. So basically what happens is we are going to arpeggiate the chord up to the 9, and then we are going to just come down the scale all the way back to the root. And this has a really nice way of lining things up in a logical way where the chord tones fall on good beats. And it's going to force us to make sure that we know the arpeggio all the way up to the 9th and the scale that goes along with these chords. It sounds like this. So you can hear that's really giving us a really good handle on every chord. We're forced to arpeggiate it. We're forced to play the scale. We're doing ascending and descending. Fantastic exercise. You could use this on any number of tunes, and I think this would be really beneficial for you. Now, the second exercise is something just a little bit more melodic that I came up with. It's just going down the arpeggio from the 9, and then we're using a little melodic fragment to get from 3 to 1. We're going 3, 2, 1, and then a little tag on it using the 3, the 1, and the 2, or the 9, however you want to think about it. So this one is meant to just be a tiny bit more melodic and less of like just a straight up exercise that at the end of the day is not very melodic. So check out this second exercise that I've prepared for you. So you can hear that's a little bit more melodic. It's kind of a phrase unto itself, which the first one is really just more of a straight up exercise. You can come up with a couple more of your own, and I suggest that you do that. Just use some combination of chords and scales and just start getting these particular chords underneath your fingers. Remember, both of these example exercises are on your PDF, so you can use them as a base to write from. So now we need to get used to the sound as it goes through the bridge, hearing the chords one after another. Remember, that's the real application of this, is to do it in real life. And in real life, these chords are just going to keep coming at you when you're playing over the bridge of rhythm changes. So here's going to be the first example, followed by a slight pause, and then the second example, actually in action with a backing track. And this is ultimately what you have to make sure that you can do in order to pull this stuff off to get ready for our future episodes coming up here. Check these out. So even if you're somebody who is fairly confident in your ability to play over the bridge already, I still want you to take the time and practice these simple exercises just to really get into it again before we move into more complicated material in these weeks to come. Just go ahead and review. Okay, if you are way past this, then come up with some of your own exercises. Challenge yourself to come up with some stuff that sounds really cool over this most basic form of the bridge. Just do something that's going to get you ready for the stuff that's coming, because the stuff that's coming is going to be a lot harder. So I just want this to be fresh in your ears. All right? So thanks for joining us. This really means a lot to me, this 200th episode. So excited to get it out to you guys, and really excited to keep going down the path of jazz education. So remember, Patreon, 10minutejazzlesson.com. Click on one of the Patreon banners. That support is really what has kept us coming at you for all 200 episodes. So if you'd like to see 200 more, get over there and sign up today. Only $3 a month. So many rewards that $3 a month is really a steal for what you're getting over there. All right. We'll talk to you soon, everybody. Have a great weekend. If you've got any questions, leave them in the 10-Minute Jazz Lesson community Facebook group. That is the spot to ask. We'll talk to you soon. Bye.